It's time to open up that aperture and let in the conversation that is light. Welcome to Photography Out Loud with your hosts, Paul Davis and Joel Longbone.
You could have warned me about that one. Goodness me. Where did that come from?
I don't know. Literally, within that last 30 seconds, I said to myself, as to do, that I've got to do an interview, an intro. So I don't even, did it even make any sense? I don't think it did it?
I think so, but I was kind of started laughing quarter of the way through it. Goodness me.
Right, I'll try and think of a better one next week.
We're going to have to re-watch this episode just to hear what you said. The aperture to let the light in. Goodness me.
Conversation of light.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
How's your week been, mate?
It's been good. It's been good. You pointed something out this week, didn't you? Because it was this time last year that we were doing our. Would it have been our first? Yeah, it would have been our first online virtual. Virtual show that we did. So the summer show, as we normally do it. But then after the show, which you can go back and rewatch at any point, I may add. So bunch of great speakers in there, I have to say. But we started doing this, whatever this is. So and then we thought, is it 1 year anniversary? And it's just like, well, it's not quite. But it is in a way, isn't it? Because we started Photography Out Loud, the show, I think a bit later on. So I think we're going to do a 1 year anniversary of
Do we get cake?
Photography Out Loud. We definitely any excuse for cake, I have to say.
You can make it. You're the culinary genius out of the two of us.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Not going to deny.
Out of the two of us, whose food would we rather eat? Definitely yours.
Yeah. Definitely a rock and a hard place, though, isn't it? To be fair.
No, when we did the Macmillan thing a while back, your Apple things were good.
Yeah, they were pretty good. So anyway, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's good. I think feels like it's just gone really fast. I suppose it feels faster when you've had a bank holiday as well, because you've had 4 days instead of 5. But yeah, it's been good.
And then we did have a dreaded stock take to do as well.
Yeah.
It
almost kills you.
Fun. Yeah, they come around way too quickly, I have to say. The stock takes, they just need to. But it's all part of the greater good, making sure that the stock is right on the website and whatnot. So.
Sure.
But this week's episode, what we're going to be doing. So me and Joel have been saving up some of the questions that we get emailed in from customers, just general sort of retail inquiries, and we thought it'd be at some point be nice to sort of mention these on the episodes that we do live every week. So
it might be helpful.
Yeah, it might be helpful, but let us know what you feel. Also, if you've got any other questions that you want to drop into the comments today, please feel free. We'll try and do our best to answer them for you.
Is this like one of those, hey, digital assistant moments that might be called Alexa or Siri or Google? What's the answer to this? Like the meaning of life?
Yeah, arguably 42. Probably get better answers trying to.
We should try that. We should ask the question of one of the digital assistants before we answer the question and see what they say.
Well, that'd be a good episode. All right.
I've Googled this, or other search engines are available, and then see what they say.
Yeah.
See if we're more intelligent than the internet.
And then hopefully, I was unable to help, but I found this YouTube video from, and it just brings
two bearded weirdies.
Yeah. So no, we're not that big yet. One day. But before we go into that, Joel, is there any news this week?
I think you've got all the news this week.
Oh, have I? Oh, I've answered that wrong then, haven't I? I should have gone.
There's 2 lenses from Nikon, isn't there? And there's the one from Panasonic.
Yes, no, you are right. It is me doing the news this week. So, yes, we've had some new announcements from Nikon. So Nikon themselves have released 2 new Z series lenses. So we've got the 105 2.8 and the 50mm 2.8. Both of them are going to be DX and FX compatible. So they'll work on full frame and the Z50 series as well. And they've added in the sort of nanocrystal coating, which they've had in the past, but a new type of coating on them as well that is going to help with flare reduction and sort of chromatic aberration, especially when things are backlit as well, which they can be with doing macro photography. So they're sort of in line with the way that the other Z series look as well. So they sort of look nice and up to date and what you'd expect from the new Z series from Nikon. So very nice lenses, and nice to see that we've got some macro lenses in the Z system now.
It's very exciting for those Nikon users. Hopefully, hopefully stock will be coming through rapidly after.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone's going through a hard time, aren't they, trying to supply everything?
Yeah,
so
it's true. There was a fire apparently at a factory that supplies audio parts for several manufacturers, which has also not helped. So
I know Nikon have had a hard time. I think, well, maybe more so than others. I don't really know. I couldn't really say, but because I know they've had to really sort of pull back on the sort of, you know, the DSLR side of things to make sure that they can still supply, obviously, the Z system that they want to sort of push forward with. So very, very hard decision, I can imagine, to do when anyone's got to make that decision. Also, the roadmap for Nikon has been updated as well, and we're going to see hopefully 2 other new lenses towards the back end of the year, which will be 2 new pancake lenses. So once again, DF and FX compatible, hopefully. There'll be a 28mm 2.8 pancake, and there'll also be a 40mm f2 pancake-ish lens, I'm guessing. They're going to be, you know, part of that small lightweight system, and it's going to really lend itself well to actually putting on the Z series bodies as well. So looking forward to hopefully seeing them towards the end of the year. So, and yes, Panasonic have had is it the 50mm 1.8?
Yeah,
1.8. So L mount compatible, that's going to go on to the Panasonic S. Also will pull back through into the Sigma system as well, being L mount compatible. So it'll work on the FP system as well. And again, been designed to be part of that small compact system that you can use, you know, keeping in line with something that's small and neat as well. So that'll be a nice lens to play with once we've got S series fully in.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else? Yes. There was the confirmed reports from Canon. So we've talked about the R3. The R3 in the past, so we talked a little bit about the eye control that they're going to have on it as well. So we've seen pictures. So there's pictures been released from Canon now, so we get to actually see what the camera looks like. It hasn't been directly compared to another model yet, and the official spec sizes haven't been released. But from what we can see on other people assuming online, it's still going to sit a little bit smaller than the 1DX Mark III, which is still going to sit at the top of the flagship on the DSLR. And it's going to have a lot of the features that we've seen on the 1DX Mark III, in particular the weird little way that you move the autofocus round. So you've got the joystick on the back, but also the AF on button. You know that computer that we have with that red dot in the middle of it, Joel, that you sort of put your finger on it, and it so one of those. So you just sort of like move it round, and it sort of moves your focus point to wherever you want. So and then they've taken the articulated screen from the R series and put it onto the R3 as well. So we can see that it's got an articulated screen on there as well, which is quite nice. They've confirmed that the battery that's going inside is going to be the LP19. Is that the full name for it? LPE19 battery, which is found in the 1DX Mark III as well. So for people within that system, it's going to be a lot easier for them to come over onto the R3.
So do you reckon people have R3s or 1DX Mark IIIs as their primary camera and the other one as their backup?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's coming out of our area of expertise, to be honest. So we know a lot about the the R5 and R6 system, because it sort of lends itself quite well to the area that we're in. So we get a lot of sort of landscape inquiries within the area, because we're right by the sea, right by the mountains. There's a little bit of sports in the area, but not a great deal. And so as far as how they're going to use side by side, it'd be very interesting to have a conversation with one of the Canon ambassadors at once everything's released, and see how they sit side by side with each other as well, and how they're going to differ.
We could segue, unless there's any more news.
Well, I was only going to mention that they once again confirmed what the enhanced autofocus actually means. There's been rumours, but they have confirmed that they're going to be adding the cars and motorcycle tracking within their new focusing system as well. So
that will please many customers.
Yep. Segue away, Joel.
So next week we have an exciting guest who is a Canon ambassador called Wanda Martin. So that'll be really good. So join us next week. Feel free to pop any questions for her in this one, or for the comments on the video when it goes live next week. And or it might go live tomorrow. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, no, I'll be as soon as I can put it on, I'll put it on. So cool. If it will let me put it on tonight, I will do. If not, I'll put it on tomorrow. There's like a week that we need to give before we can put stuff on, apparently. Yeah.
And so join us. She's into fashion and portrait photography, and she's very good. So join us next week, because that'll be an exciting chat with her. Now segueing again into the comments before we go into the questions.
The show. Yeah.
Tracy says, very Canton-esque, Paul. I think that was in regard to your
my intro.
Your differing intro compared to the past however many weeks we've been doing it. So Steve says, hi guys. Hello, Steve. Andrew says, hi, can you get ND filters for conversation of light? Is that when you go to the pub? Yeah, it's not when you go to the pub and you don't want to talk to people, or you want to reduce the talk. Ian says, afternoon, chaps. Hope you're both okay. Oops, nearly forgot Sarah as well. Hope you're getting better. She is definitely getting better, just slowly, and hopefully she behaves herself and continues to relax. But we know that she's too stubborn to do that, so we'll see. Steve says, am I able to book my get to know your new camera session now? Ooh. Is he, Paul? Maybe not next week. Week after, probably.
Get to know your new camera.
What? The 1DX Mark III he got.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Speak to Paul. Paul will sort it out. Not next week, though, because he's having a week off. He's been working very hard. Or hardly working. I can't remember which way it goes.
Both the same in my eyes.
Johnny says, afternoon, likey lads. Afternoon, Johnny. I have a question, but not so sure it's a quick one to answer. Best favorite camera bag, backpack style, not roll-ups, and can fit a decent amount, 2 times bodies and multiple lenses. Mine's just broke. Oh dear, that's not good. What did you have previously? Let us know what you had previously. And then we'll try and have a think whilst we're answering the other questions, and we'll try and give you some options. And also, could you confirm what you mean by roll-ups? Do you mean the roll-up on the top where you clip it together or it clips down? Okay. There's a lot of really good bags with those though at the moment.
Yeah.
It seems like all of the really good bags have roll tops at the moment. So, Graham says hi from a damp Isle of Wight. Hello. That's quite a lot further south than usual. I love the Isle of Wight. It's a great place. Adam says thanks for the new lightweight Benro today. Oh, there we go. That one's for you, Paul.
Thanks for the filters.
Yeah. Johnny says R3 rumored at $6,000 dollars.
Yes.
Be interesting to see if it's pound for dollar when it hits our shores. Yeah.
I think in the past, I think there's been it's always been very close. I would suspect that it's probably going to come in at that sort of that 5.5, that 5,499.
And then you put on the VAT. Import charge.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. It's how it's going to be as far as all that sort of malarkey is concerned as well, isn't it? So, yeah. But it is going to be around that. Yeah, it's definitely going to be up there. Yeah, lots of money.
Sure. Yeah. Steve says mine is a 1DX Mark III. I'm not sure if that was relating to your camera session, or you were talking about the 1DX versus the R3.
Yeah, I think I sort of stumbled on. I couldn't remember what camera Steve had, so I think he's just reminding me.
Yeah. And Johnny says it's a strange move though, given the 1DX3 isn't that old and it's a direct hit toward that space. And I assume the R1 will be the 1DX killer. Yeah, I think though at the moment, Canon are almost flexing. I think just going, look what we can do, and we're going to keep DSLR and mirrorless going in almost side by side, and you get to pick and choose, because arguably it makes it a bit easier for people to move over from DSLR to mirrorless when there's a direct opposite number almost. So it will be interesting to see when the R1 comes out, if it comes out, and what its specs will be, and whether it just matches the 1DX or tries to push what the 1DX can do even further.
Yeah, I think you're right about them going side by side, Joel, because I think in the past when we've looked at sort of other brands, it's just like, well, if I want to upgrade, I've got to go mirrorless, or if I want to have a better body, I've got to go back to the sort of DSLR. Where I think Canon are giving, like you said, the opportunity to, be at that sort of flagship level, and then just decide, whether you want mirrorless or whether you want DSLR. Both have their advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you're spending that much money, hopefully you know what those advantages and disadvantages are. So, right, that's brilliant. Is that all the? Well, it's not all the questions, is it? Because literally, that's what we're doing today is answering questions. So
it is.
We'll keep the questions coming. Joel, have you got the little list that we put together as far as all the questions? You do such a good job of
type them out, or should I just read them? Let's just read them.
Just read them. Don't get me reading anything. We get into all sorts of problems, don't we?
I don't know what you mean, Paul. Is it a bit of a trial or is it a trail having to read?
Yeah.
It's not. Hey, at least you're not doing any funny hand gestures. Right, first question. Hi, I'm trying to choose between a circular ND, be careful now, and a square ND filter. Is there a big difference? Wow, that's quite a simple question to answer.
Sorry, difference between a circular and a square? Yeah. And just ND? You've got to be careful there, I tell you.
Okay. They both do the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the first comment to make. So in theory, there's not shouldn't really be a quality difference, only if you choose like a resin versus a glass one in terms of square filters. But it really comes down to usability, I would say, in terms of circular is more compact. So you just screw it onto the front, which is fantastic. But then in terms of autofocus, well, depending on how strong the ND, it's kind of pretty much game over for the stronger ones. But equally, square ND is larger, but far more flexible in the sense that you can stack it with other filters. You put it put it on a little holder if you're not sure what we're talking about. Basically, a holder goes onto the front of your lens with a special adapter ring, and then you can slide through these little channels or blades, essentially pieces of glass or pieces of plastic, and they just slide in and out. And that's the way that it cuts the light down. And the great thing about square versus circular, I'd say as well, is that you get a much larger choice, don't you, in terms of quality and cost, and the actual stops that it cuts out in terms of light. So you can start at like 1 stop and go up all the way to 16 stops. Yeah, I think that's probably the highest really that we sell, isn't it? 16 stops. So
I think if we stay in the assuming that this person's using it for sort of picture taking, I would say, because it changes again for video stuff, but I would say definitely using a square and then in a system, because typically if you're using an ND filter, you're on a tripod, you probably got a gradual ND at the same time, but again, there's that range of cost available, because like you mentioned, you can get resin, you can get the glass ones. Typically with the circular ones, they can be they're obviously generally glass, so they're going to be slightly more expensive straight away. And then if you decided that you wanted to use a graduate with it, then I don't know, you might be putting on a system on top of that, and it gets
messy and not easy to use.
Yeah, again, I would say get the square, and then obviously it would be compatible with any system that you upgrade to or any lens that you upgrade to in the future. If you're typically buying a circular one, you're buying it in a size. Ideally, you're buying it for the size of your filter. You can get step up and step down rings, but you're getting into a bit of a world of pain there, to be honest, as well. So I think we'd recommend the square filter.
I think the simple answer is go for a square ND, unless you have a very good reason to go circular. But if you were to come into a shop and you were asking about filters, we'd most probably sell you a square set, just because normally more people who want to use. Yeah, exactly. So, right, next question.
Did we say we were going to get through these questions really quickly?
Maybe, probably not at this rate.
We've got loads of them as well.
We can answer some another time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, hello. Someone mentioned back button focus to me, but I don't understand what it means. This is almost as bad as is Canon better than Nikon argument. Yeah,
it can. Well, I mean, arguably, it's probably better to use back button focusing. So because especially with if you've got a more modern camera and you're using it for tracking purposes, the idea of back button focusing is that you can lock onto a subject and then it will keep locking on, and especially with the brand new models that have deep learning algorithms, is that you want to stay locked onto your subject as long as possible. The problem with using the front or the main shutter button is that typically if you wanted to continue this lock and learn scenario, you're going half press to engage your focusing, to fully press to take your picture, but then you've actually got to go back to the half press without taking the full release off. So what the back button focusing enables you to do is you can assign it to one of the buttons on the back, normally the AI lock button, within the menu system, so you can change it around, and you can just constantly have your thumb on it, and that will constantly keep tracking and learning the subject that you're doing. As far as if you're doing a landscape or anything that is a bit more slowed down and you're just using it on single autofocus, I don't think it really makes a difference whether you're half pressing or whether you're fully pressing down.
It's not moving very fast, is it?
No. Or some people they just don't like getting just that half press. They just can't find it nicely. On some cameras, it's really sensitive, and you just don't want to learn it. So you can reassign one of the buttons. More of the sort of performance cameras or high performance cameras in the DSLR and mirrorless range, they actually have an AF on button at the back now. So you don't even need to
dedicated
reassign
one.
it.
Yeah.
It's just there for doing that as well. So
yeah, it's very handy.
So that's what it. What was the question again? Did we actually answer it, or did we just go down?
Someone mentioned back button focus to me, but I don't understand what it means. I think we've answered.
Oh right,
it.
okay, yeah, no, we answered.
I would also say that it's useful to give it a go. I think, and then you can make a more informed decision as to whether it works for you or not. But also knowing that in some cases it might work really well, and then in other cases it might not work well. So you might have to pick and choose whether you use back button focus depending on whether you're shooting landscape or motorcycles, for instance. So,
and if you're struggling to set it up, just like messages or call us or email us. Was that?
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't too sure if you're.
That's typing, isn't it?
I don't know. You sort of did it under your beard though, so I don't know if it was like a.
Like a character of Pirates of the Caribbean or something. Right. Hey, I've had click-lock tripods before. Yeah. Before, but the springs keep breaking. Any suggestions? Okay. So click-lock tripods, I'm guessing they mean the locks on the legs. The ones that try and bite you occasionally.
Yeah. So you got turny ones, haven't you? And then you got clip lock. Yeah.
Twisty, twisty. Clicky, clicky. There we go. Likey, likey. So obviously this is a very general statement, but click lock tend to not like being put in water, especially salty water, or in mud and things like that, because those springs are made out of thin metal generally, and they'll just corrode over time, and they just let go, they snap. Or in some cases, the actual casing breaks because there's quite a lot of tension force to hold the legs in. And then also they need a bit of tweaking in terms of they can often slacken themselves off over time as well. So click locks are good. I used to be a big fan of click locks. I like that kind of click, and you knew it was suddenly locked on. But having somebody showed me how to use twist lock legs properly, quarter turn, slide it out, quarter turn, tighten. And now, like, you can grab, if it's a 3 or 4 section, you could just grab all of the locks, twist, slide it, and then lock them all off very quickly. And the great benefit of twists, or one of the great benefits, is the fact that most of them, apart from Vanguard, which do kind of like an enclosed system, so in theory it should never get any sand or salt or water inside of the leg chamber. But you can just take it apart. They just untwist essentially. You have to really twist them like 10 or 20 times to get them off, but then they have little like bits of plastic that hold them on. But you can get grease for them and just wash them down with cold water, let them dry off, reapply some grease, pop it all back together, and tripod's as good as new, which is something that we often suggest, because we often get customers coming in with tripods that have fallen apart, and you say, where have you used this predominantly? In the sea. So at which point we sell them a twist lock system, because you can just wash it.
And I think as well, when you're looking in, I mean, most of the brands that we do, you can actually take apart and clean. So again, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure, is that when somebody came in, we could say, well, yeah, that's a bit dirty. We can show you how to clean it. But I would definitely look for something that you can dismantle down and clean. And then it's something that, we offer the service. If you ever wanted a service on your tripods, it's something that we do here. But it's it's no hardship. It's just a bit time consuming. So, it's just stripping everything down, giving everything, a wipe down with like fresh water, an old toothbrush, just giving everything a quick wipe is definitely the best way of keeping on top of having a nice tripod that's going to last you a while. Or if you're like me, then you don't clean your tripods and you just cost in the fact that, well, in 3 years' time, I'm going to have to buy a new one.
I hope you don't do that to your carpets at home. I just won't hoover it. I'll have to replace it in 3 years' time.
No comment.
Then you turn out around and say, I've not got any carpets, I've got laminate everywhere. Right, shall we try one last question?
I think we've got time for one last question. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Right. Hi. Hope you can help. We'll certainly try. I want to get into printing, but not sure about which paper to go for.
Oh.
Now,
Joel,
we could answer this in
all you. This is you love your printing. Off you go.
Well, okay. In a nutshell, the first thing is to figure out what you want out of your print. I would say, do you want to frame it? Because if it's getting framed and it's going behind glass, immediately don't touch gloss or anything with quite a sheen on it. Anything that's matte or satin is your best bet, because you don't get like the nasty reflections in your framed image. So that's the first one. We get a lot of people coming in to do prints. First question we ask them is, are you going to frame it? If so, choose luster or a matte finish. Then after that, it's not an easy question to answer, I don't think, because it comes down to personal preference and what you as a photographer want your image to look like. Because the paper types we have available to us through PhotoSpeed, there's quite a lot. You can go from super nice gloss or metallic gloss, which can work really well on certain image styles, all the way through to NT, natural textured paper, which is like this. It's like really textured. It looks really good for kind of either abstract pieces or pieces that have a lot of texture. I like rocks and sand and that sort of thing printed on a textured paper. It adds a lot of depth to it. I had a customer ask us to do a print of the moon on the natural soft textured, which is not as textured, hence the soft texture part of it. And it just added something quite nice into the craters on the moon and that kind of out of world image kind of thing. But then I think like one of my favorite papers is Burrito, like for black and whites and stuff like that. It just looks really good. So, but if you ever are able to come into the shop, just ask to see our samples. We can show you a sample book and we can start looking at your images and helping you go through them. We've had a few people who have come in and we've done them various A4 sample prints of different images or the same image on different pieces of paper to show the difference, because it's not an exact science. It's down to you, the photographer, as to what you think looks best and how you want your image to be viewed. But I don't. We could be talking for ages about different paper types and what sort of images you should print on. But I think it comes down to getting to look at it yourself and giving it a go. And ultimately knowing that printing is as experimental as learning photography and learning to get the images that you want and make the images that you want. And then you have to figure out how to print them the way that you want. But that said, it's a very exciting journey, I think. I think it's, especially when you start getting to bigger sizes and you're taking an image that you worked to figure out when you were going to make it, because you timed the light just right, timed the seasons just right. Then you went home and edited it just right. And then printing it is kind of that kind of final stage of it. And I think it's very exciting to get to be able to do that. So.
Yeah. The only thing that I try and do, and I don't know whether it's because, this is sort of the way that I was sort of brought up with photography, is that, I look at sort of potentially the pictures that I want to print as a whole. Because normally if I've got like a set of photographs, I'd probably want that set of photographs to be on the same type of paper. So where maybe like, one might be, if you look at them individually, you might go, oh, this might be better on like a gloss. And then maybe the next one in the set would probably bring out the best in that individual photo as like as a matte or something. But then if they were side by side, you might have a glossy picture and a matte picture. And if that's obviously your thing that you like doing, then that's absolutely fine. But I tend to find it's most aesthetically pleasing when, if you've got a set, going up maybe in your house somewhere, then they're all on the same paper type. So actually looking at them as like a set of photographs that you want to put up and then picking your paper type for that, it's helped me in the past. So, rather
Good
than just
advice.
individual. So, it's. I mean, we've got loads of questions though, haven't we? So, but I think
we'll come back to them another time.
Yeah, I think we'll put a pin in the rest of them, and then we'll come back and we'll try and make this a regular thing. I think what we'll have to try and do, Joel, because we haven't, obviously, if people are not aware of, we are a retail store, so we have an online website, and this is where the questions have come from. But I think it'd be quite nice to maybe set up like some actual social media properly for Photography Out Loud. So if anyone's got like a question that they want to directly ask us, so what we'll probably work on is getting an email set up, getting some sort of I don't know, what do the kids use now? Instagram normally, isn't it? So, get those set up. So if you want to directly ask a question on here, and then we would answer it on Photography Out Loud rather than just sort of answering you back directly, then I think that'd be great. Plus, it helps with us trying to find what content to do as well. So it'd be a great way of everyone telling everyone telling us what is the best thing that you want to see from us.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
So.
Quickly going back to the comments. Johnny says, I think you're totally right. They're flexing to grab back some market from Sony and Fuji. Yeah, it's interesting, the whole Canon, especially Canon and Sony with the full frame situation, and Nikon. To be fair, Nikon have made great inroads into full frame with mirrorless. And he says, my bag is a Manfrotto, lots of letters. I think it's just known as the travel backpack. Never really quite big enough, to be honest, but was great materials. But can't decide to head towards Peak Design, as everything I bought of Peak Design seems good build quality. Oh dear, where's David? Where's David? He's going to say, don't
David's Sparky comment here.
He'll be saying, don't ask Joel about Peak Design because you'll end up with 5 bags. I can definitely recommend the Peak Design bags, depending on how big you want to go. They do the 20 and the 30 litre in the everyday backpack, which is good. But I suspect the 45 might be the best option with some cubes inside if you need to carry quite a lot of gear. And the great thing about the travel, which I have right down on the floor by me, you can kind of pop it, and if you need more space, you can unzip as well, so it expands and contracts. But maybe, Paul, when we're back in the studio together, we can do another bag video. And we can go through some of the options. But Johnny, if you're coming up this way, feel free to pop in and I can go through the range with you. Because I do think it's definitely worth a consideration if you don't like roll tops. Because the Gitzo Adventuri roll tops are fantastic. Weather sealed. The Shimoda, we've mentioned that a few times. We've sold quite a few of those and they're really, really good. But again, got roll tops. Although the Explore series don't have roll tops, so it might be consideration.
Yeah.
And the core system works well with that. So.
If you're looking at Peak Design or Shimoda, you just cannot go wrong with them. Unfortunately, they're the most expensive, but it's one of those things where if you're happy to spend a little bit extra on a bag, you're really going to get a good return on it. So they're going to be long lasting. Obviously, Peak is more about I don't know if you agree, but it's a bit more quick access. So if you want something a bit more to hand, where I think Shimoda might not be as quick to access, but I think actually offers it's the most comfortable on your back.
Yeah, they're designed for 2 different types of photography, I'd say. If you're heavily into landscape and being out and about in all sorts, then the Shimoda would definitely be better. But if you're going between various different things, then I think the Peak would probably be best.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
So, and I've got a Shimoda bag and I've got a Peak bag, and I use them for different things. So, but it's easy for me to say that because I work at a photographic retailer. So, we're kind of addicted to these things. So, Tina says back button works for me, and it's interesting to see different people will say different things about back button. So. My Peak Design backpack is 2.5 years old and still looks like new. I can't believe it's been 2.5 years since I sold you that bag to you. It's a great bag, though, to be fair. And Johnny says, that sounds reassuring. Did you get the inserts, and did you find you were spending more time unpacking to access the kit? Oh, I think that's directed at Tina. And you do get all the inserts in there. I think there's 3. And they do, it's like this weird origami where you can either have it like that, or you can fold down one side, or you can fold it up and it will hold like a small lens or something like that. Or you can fold a few down and fit like a 100 to 500 or 100 to 400 or 150 600 down one side, depending on whether you go 20 or 30 litre size. And in terms of accessing, especially on, well, no, both adventure and everyday backpacks have the side openings, which is great. But the great thing I love about the travel is the whole back opens, so you can access the cubes and you can pull the cubes out. And if you wanted to, you'd have multiple cubes depending on what you were doing that day. And I think that makes a big difference, because I've used the travel for like one camera, one lens, and then the other one was with some packing cubes, so I could carry all my gear and like my the toiletries bag that they use. So yeah, I think it just depends on what you want it for. But it's definitely worth you popping along and us showing you in real life. So, and Ian says, can I bring photo files on a USB pen drive for you to print? Of course you can, Ian. It's not a problem at all. We'd be more than happy to help you do that, and we can go through some of the paper types with you as well.
Nowadays as well, we would quite happily accept images however you want to send them to us. But sometimes need just a little bit of bearing with us while we try and figure out the best way of getting the picture over to us without losing any quality. So sometimes there might be a few questions, especially off the phones. They get a little bit gets a little bit more involved. We accept images sort of however you want to bring them to us, basically. So but some devices need maybe us to ask a couple of more questions than others, so just bear with us if you're in that sort of ballpark. Any more comments, Joel, before we finish off?
Johnny just said, thanks lads, we'll read up over weekend, need to get one this week for the Gareth workshop, we'll ring you. Yes. I thought I saw your name on there. Just give us a shout, it's no problem at all. And then last one, Tina says, I find it very good, don't spend ages hunting for things. Mine only has the sections in it, but they bend in lots of ways depending on the kit you're using. Yes. Also, that reminds me, if you hunt back, you'll find a video that I did with Tina about that bag. If I find a link, I'll try and 2.5 years ago. If I find it, Johnny, I'll send it over to you on Facebook chat, and you can have a look at that and cringe at me with no beard and stuff. That was ages ago. So there we go. All done. No more comments.
All right, brilliant. Joel, any final thoughts before we break up for this weekend?
I'm going to figure out. Just enjoy the weather. Well. Just enjoy the weather. Get out with your
new intros every time, new outros every time. Just so I don't need to ask you what are your final thoughts, because you just keep answering. No, just have a good weekend.
Well, I could go into much more detail, but
I know you could.
I just think at the moment, just enjoy the sunshine. Might be raining next week for all we know. So
who knows? Who knows? So big thank you to everyone that's watched us, including everyone that's watched us live as well. So it's absolutely wonderful seeing all your live comments come in. And we will be doing another episode like this again with answering some of your questions. So if you've got any questions at all, please find us on our social media platforms and just chuck us over a message anytime. And we'll probably answer straight away and then maybe save it for one of these as well. So that's not a problem. If you haven't already, please make sure that you go onto our Facebook and YouTube channels, hit like, subscribe, or whatever the related button is on that platform.
Likey.
Indeed. And please make sure that you share this video as well to let everyone know what we're doing here. I've just realized our logo's gone off the bottom, hasn't it? I don't know what's happened there.
Paul, you broke it.
Oh, it's like I have broken it as well. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Hey, he fixed it as quickly
45
as he broke
minutes.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yes. Well, on that bombshell, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Cheers. Bye now.